Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Go Native Farms. And today is August the 1st, 2024, and we thought we're going to give you a little garden update today and show you what's going on, the good, the bad, the ugly, and talk about it. So hopefully maybe y'all can learn a little bit from some of our trials and tribulations, and you can kind of just check out our garden, see if you think it's working good and something you might want to try some similar things. So right here we have the Santo Domingo red corn, and it's some of the stuff is taller than me now, as you can see, and we have pollen, and we have corn on there, and we do have some of these bags on two of our varieties of corn because we're trying to prevent cross-pollination, and this Santo Domingo corn's doing really good overall. So we're not going to walk all the way down there, but you can see it's doing pretty good. It's not perfect. It could be a little darker green, but for growing the first year and kind of rushing things and getting manure into the soil, it did pretty good for the first year. And we'll kind of pan over here and you can see that angle, and you can see some of it's a little bit on the light green side, but overall doing pretty good. I did put a little bit of fish emulsion on there, and then that's kind of how the corn's doing on the Santo Domingo corn. And then if we pan over here, you can see this corn over here is our Jicarilla Apache corn, and that corn's doing pretty good as well. Looks probably a little darker green, and lots of cobs have set on there. And we're doing the same thing with the bags. They're called either we use the corn ear shoot bags, or we'll use the tassel bags, and we'll put those over the cobs to prevent cross-pollination. So we're doing the same thing over there. And we might as well take a look down here. We got quite a few Hatiko Hopi beans, and these are doing pretty good. Got these from a friend in Hopi, and we do have one down here which I put next to the corn, and that one's not quite as dark green, and maybe it is competing a little bit with the nutrients with the corn, but maybe it's providing some nitrogen for the corn. Okay, so we'll take a look at our squash in a second, but right here we do have a that's an Apache sunflower from White Mountain Apache. And then it looks like we are growing some Navajo tea here that came up on its own. I think that's what this is, but I'm not completely sure, because some of these flowers look a little different to me than I was used to. So I'm going to check with some of my native friends before I use that stuff. All right, so if we take a look at the not winter melon. These are a Navajo Hubbard squash, and overall we have a lot of squash on there, but as soon as I saw the first stink bug come in, they started to yellow the plants. So as soon as they start biting the plants turn yellow, and a couple of them died. And I'll show you some interesting stuff going on there. And I can conclude that when the squash bugs come and they bite the plant, I do believe that they're transmitting some type of bacteria or virus into the plant, because the plant can die real quick after that. And I only have a small amount of squash bugs, but they seem to do a lot of damage. It's not an infestation. There's a few here and a few there, but as soon as they showed up, as you can see, that plant is dead. So that's unfortunate, and that Hubbard squash fell off. So we'll probably see if it can ripen, but I don't think it will. And we'll just leave it in the sun and see what happens. The next two plants here are still looking pretty green, not so bad. We do have a good amount of the squash that are on there, and I think that's one that got a little muddy in the rain. And this next plant you can see, and I found squash bugs on here, that it turns the leaves yellow, and then shortly thereafter the plants trend downhill and then they die. So I've actually only lost one, but these ones are not looking good. You can see the growth is stunted. They've stopped putting out more vines, and I hope that these ones will finish out and that they will produce some good Navajo Hubbard seed. And as you can see, these Hubbard squash are pretty neat, and they do come in different shapes and sizes. And I'll show you this one right here. And as soon as I saw squash bugs on this one, you can start to see the yellowing even went into the fruit. So hopefully we don't lose all of our fruit, and hopefully we do get some really nice seeds out of it. And next year I will either grow in a screened off area or a greenhouse, or not at all, because when you grow organically, it is very hard to contend with squash bugs. And this is a nice Hubbard squash right there. It has the traditional shape that we think of, and I can also see that that one's getting a little bit of that yellowing into the fruit there. And I did see some squash bug eggs right here, if you can see that. And I sprayed those with alcohol, but I'm going to take them off today. And that's kind of the story on the squash. That's kind of the bad and the ugly would be our squash. We did get some fruits, but not completely sure if we're even going to get good seed out of that. Let's see, what else can we take a look at? So after we have about 20 the Hubbard squash, and then down here this row is the Navajo winter melon, and we have quite a bit of winter melon. They're doing pretty good, and I think these will get to about 6 to 9 inch diameter is what I'm told. And we have well over 50 on the plants, and we'll just kind of walk and take a look at them. And there's a good sized one right there. That one might be ripe in a few weeks. And let's see, so more melons everywhere. Happy with that. And there's still a lot of flowers and a lot of fruit that's still coming on. So we'll just kind of walk all the way to the end here. You can see those everywhere. Some of them are covered. Some of them came out green, which is not the traditional color we think of with this variety, but that's how it goes sometimes. And happy to have the fruit. So just keep walking, and you can see the melons are everywhere. And the squash bugs do not seem to affect the watermelon. I've seen them occasionally on them, but I don't see the plants die after the squash bugs arrive. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I'll have to figure that out. And another good looking melon there. And yeah, melons are everywhere all the way to the end. And all right, so this next row here we have, not sure if there'll be a glare because we're looking into the morning sun, but we'll maybe walk at this angle. And these are the Navajo Apache cantaloupe melon, and they're doing really well also. They have spread out and the vines are everywhere, and those weeds help keep them in place so they don't get blown around in the southwestern winds. And just take a peek at that guy before we step on it. And back to the cantaloupes. They're doing pretty good, and we probably have a few too many weeds here, but we do feed a lot of these weeds to our birds, which they like. But next year I think we're going to focus on getting rid of the tumbleweeds and let other weeds grow, because we do like weeds out here. And I thought we had a melon in here. I'm trying to show you guys a good looking melon, but haven't seen one yet. I know there's some down this way. Probably have maybe 10 of these guys that have set fruit, and they have a pretty looking rind on them. There's one. There's two actually. Those are really small, maybe 3 inches long at the most on the bigger one. And let's find you a big one in here, because I know we got a couple of big ones in here somewhere. Let's see. Not there, but we're getting warmer, I promise. There's one. It's an interesting looking one growing straight up like that. Kind of interesting. Oh, here we go. Here's a bigger one. One's getting a little bigger there. And most of these have been long versus round, but we do have one down a little farther. Sorry about the wind, it's kicking in. And there's one I'm seeing right in there. Two. Yeah, they're everywhere. Three actually. Check that out. 1, 2, 3. At least 3 right there. And okay, let me find you that round one. As we're walking there, we'll take a look at the Zea chili peppers, and they're looking great. Tons of peppers. Well, tons of flowers, hoping for the peppers. And there's our round melon, our round cantaloupe, and that one's getting pretty big now. It's doing all right, so good size. Glad to have that one there. And more of these watermelons down here. We've got a ton of watermelon. I don't know if you can see those in there hiding, but they're hiding. Getting a little sunscreen from the leaves. And more melons everywhere. Okay, and last melon of the day. And we have tomatoes also. We do plant a little bit of non-Native American stuff, so we get some tomatoes going on here, and got one here, and something, I think a pack rat, while we're over here, was eating the leaves off of my sunflower. Just ripped them off and took them away. I'm assuming that's a pack rat, but I could be wrong. All right, so we did spread out the Hubbard squash, Navajo Hubbard, and this is one plant right here, and it's really big. And I have not seen squash bugs on here. Hopefully they stay away, because we have 3 pretty good sized squash coming on here. This one's a good size right there. Oop. As you can see, pretty good sized ones. And we have a third one somewhere. It's hiding. And that is vined out. The vine is at least, what, 8-10 feet? So really going well. And then we did plant some other beets and stuff we've got going on. Not all of them came up, but the ones that did are doing pretty good. I haven't really checked on the size of them yet, but I do feel a small beet down there. We'll let them go longer. And we've got our fruit trees doing well. We've got more beets in here. And check out this beautiful okra, which decided to put a flower on today. This is a red okra. Good looking plant. And I was gonna pull out a radish. Let's see if we got a radish in here we can pull out. All right, that might work. Might work. There we go. Sorta, kinda. There's a radish. So our radishes are doing all right as well. We'll come back and grab that later. And we got some kohlrabi. and more kohlrabi and more okra. We've got our cilantro down there. So a lot of things doing really well on the farm. But you're gonna have your challenges as well. More cilantro and okra, and got some carrots that came up. And let's take a look at this other corn. This is another Native American blue corn, and this one came from the, let me remember the tribe, Jemez. I believe it was the Jemez tribe on this one. And these have not started to pollinate yet. They were planted around July the 1st, as I recall, and they're doing pretty good. And hopefully they pollinate separate from everything else, and we don't have to worry about putting those corn ear shoot bags or tassel bags on. And then down here we do have another beautiful Navajo Hubbard squash, and it is producing pretty well. And one of the reasons you might want to consider spacing out your squash in different areas of the garden far apart from each other is it seems to be less likely that you're going to get squash bugs in all of the different corners. So over on some areas I haven't seen any squash bugs, but where I have them concentrated, they are kind of everywhere. And we have another Hubbard in there, and then see a little cilantro in there. Hopefully we are not going to see any of those stink bugs, which are of the devil. And there's a little more on the squash. So that's kind of it. Probably covered most everything today. And then wanted to give you guys a little update on the farm. So that is pretty much what it's looking like. Whenever you garden, you're going to have challenges, and you don't want to give up. You always want to think about, how am I going to deal with the problem? So the problem we had with this corn is, even though we separated and planted them from the corn over there that's pollinating, the Santo Domingo corn, they did both put up pollen at the same time. So we have to come through here and put on our bags and make sure that we're not going to get any cross pollination. And that's how you can deal with that problem. The problem with the squash bugs, that's a little more difficult to deal with as an organic gardener. The only way I think I can grow squash effectively is to have them in a screened off area and hand pollinate or bring in some bees. But I love squash, I love to grow it, but I have had numerous problems growing squash related to the squash bugs. And I've asked a lot of people, including the Native Americans, how they cope with it, and everybody struggles with it. Some people say to put dog poop around the plants. Some people say you can grow different herbs around them to keep off the squash bugs, but I have never found anything other than you got to go in there, hand spray them. You can use you got to find them first, which is the trouble, and then once you find them, you got to spray them. And if you miss one, then there's going to be a ton more squash bugs right around the corner. So I went through here yesterday just spraying neem oil and dish soap mix on there, which is organic, but that doesn't even seem to kill them. You can, if you want to spray a bug directly and kill it, you could use rubbing alcohol, and that pretty much will kill any bug that it gets on. But hopefully we do get a decent harvest here. And you can kind of see just by looking at these two plants here that this one is doing better than this one. And the yellowing started on this plant first over here. Hasn't really got too bad on this plant next to it, and hasn't gotten too bad on this plant here. And I just see a instant change in the plant as soon as I see the squash bugs arrive, even if it's 1 or 2 squash bugs on a plant. So that is my 2 cents for today. And basically we are out here growing in the sandy loam, and basically all I did for nutrients was put in alpaca manure, and I ran my drip lines, which we'll talk about another day. And what else did I do? I did put a little bit of liquid fish emulsion on some of the plants, but not all of them. Like the corn over here, I did not put, none of this corn I put any fish emulsion on, but I did put a little bit on these over here, which were needing a little more nutrients and nitrogen as well. So, and I also added a little bit of the seaweed extract as well, the liquid form, on some plants, not all of them. But a lot of people think they cannot grow in the sand in the Southwest, and as you can see, we're doing pretty good out here, but we have challenges, and just keep working around the challenges and learning from them, and that's what we do. So nothing terribly magical. Maybe we'll do another video on some organic fertilizers in the future or something like that. But thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.